Joining us live from Washington, D.C. is strategic consultant and political commentator Aidan Smith. Aidan, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much. How do you see this playing out? Importantly, just how much of Mr. Trump's time is all of this going to occupy?
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting about this case in particular, I think when this was first announced in 2023 that this case is going to go forward, to a lot of people across the political spectrum, and I'm really speaking especially about people who aren't especially politically engaged, the hush money accusation seemed obviously in comparison to allegations of trying to overturn the 2020 election per se. For example, in terms of some of the other allegations he's faced in terms of legal scrutiny, the hush money payments did obviously seem to be at face value to be kind of a small story. And during this, the prosecutor, from my understanding, has really been attempting to tie it into, make the argument that, when they're looking at alleged impropriety in terms of Trump Organization internal documents, that this isn't just a case of alleged fraud, but is something bigger, so an actual attempt to influence the outcome of 2016. And I think that it is obviously in a campaign that is as fast-paced as any American election is, even just having to go through the motions in terms of the trial obviously causes hiccups in both Trump's campaign and also just general commentary if obviously the Republican nominee isn't able to hold rallies wherever he wants if he's forced to be in court in New York.
Well, that's right. No political candidate wants to be forced off the campaign trail, and the clock is ticking down to November. Is Trump due in court over any of those other legal challenges you alluded to there in the lead up to the election?
I'm not entirely sure about the scheduling. I believe that the Supreme Court is considering looking at the case regarding the alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. In terms of Trump's own personal presence, I'm not entirely sure, regrettably so. I do think that in terms of looking at this, in terms of as a political analyst, there's going to be the case of, not being able to be in the particular states you want to campaign in, for example, is obviously something that causes a hiccup for Trump's campaign. On the other hand, I think a lot of the Republican team's hopes are that voters see this as an illegitimate case, which is kind of the argument the right is making, and making the argument that the Democrats don't want to just win at the ballot box. They want to take these measures, regardless of its veracity, something like that. I think they are really hoping that that does appeal to voters, including some people who might have voted for Biden last time around.
Where are we at in terms of the polls at the moment? It seems like we do see some regular polls coming through. When we're looking at how things are tracking for both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, what's the trend?
From what I understand, we're starting to see a resurgence in some polling for Biden, I believe, in terms of national polling. What I think for a lot of Democrats, they're concerned about state polling because obviously in the last two election cycles, the Democratic nominee did win the popular vote nationwide, but that doesn't matter one bit if you're losing a state like Wisconsin or a state that is luring a lot of Democrats is Michigan. That's one of the biggest stories of this election cycle is that for a lot of Democrats, they're more worried about losing Michigan than they are a state like Arizona or Nevada. A lot of this is attributed to Trump obviously winning it in an upset in 2016. But also, Michigan famously has the largest Arab American population, especially concentrated in places like Dearborn, which is why a lot of people think that Biden's response to the war in Gaza could end up sinking his campaign in Michigan, and why a lot of progressives want him to endorse a ceasefire there, not just for humanitarian reasons, obviously, but also it has dramatic electoral consequences. So I think that the Biden campaign should be really concerned, especially about polling in Michigan.
Okay, Aidan Smith, plenty of polls, no doubt, to come in the meantime. Really appreciate you joining us with your analysis. Thanks so much.